And there we go, the recording's up. So what I do is I break down the entire market structure from a dollar index perspective, and then from there, I answer your guys' questions and give answers as well. So that's kind of how I structured out, guys. So if you guys do have any questions during the webinar, please just hold them to the end. You guys can put them in the group chat so you guys don't forget, or however you guys want to go about it. But just please hold them to the end. I will get to every single one of them. And yeah, guys, so with that, let's get right into it. Gonna take a sip of water. And here we go, guys. So we're in a very interesting environment, as I'll call it, as of right now, in reference to structure and where we are, right? You know, as the past 3 weeks we've been saying, right, we've been saying that all of this right here should be treated as short term and should be treated as a correction simply because of what we saw, you know, occur starting in November, right? And the one thing, regardless of how impulsive it was, is that we still want to be very careful when we're breaking out of consolidated areas, right? Because we don't know how long this is going to last, right? As we continue to break down critical levels, the big question is, you know, one, are we going to get that big relief? And two, more importantly, you know, what does that say in reference to that direction? How much further do we have to go? And so starting off, guys, on the monthly time frame with dollar index as of right now, we definitely can see that dollar is attempting to test this 93.20 handle, which is what we were saying 2 weeks ago in the webinar, that dollar is not necessarily a buy for us until we crack the 94.15 handle, right? And as of right now, we are treating this entire movement as short-term and relief as of right now, right? And for some of you guys who are quite confused on why I'm saying everything is short-term right now, is because you have to look at it from a bigger picture perspective, right? And if we take a look at the nature of dollar and in what it's done, right, we can see that it made an impulse back in 2014, right? And then from there, we saw dollar attempt to make a continued rally, but eventually started to pull back and relief, right? And you know, that's expected. We're expected some type of movement like this, right? But when structure continues, right, and starts to create lower lows or starts to invalidate a potential impulse, then you have to have a good understanding of, okay, what, you know, environment are we in? And so the way I look at it as of right now is that this is not what we're riding. I don't care if people say that this is the higher low that was created on the trend, right? Because as I say time and time again, right, trends are not straight line shots, but a consistence of highs and lows. And so because of that, guys, you know, the only reason why trends are important is due to the automated you know, aspect of the game, and the fact that we know that there are pending orders sitting within that region or within this region or whatever it is, right? But we know that there are pending orders sitting there, right? And so that's the only reason why we really care about trends in the end of the day. But, you know, in reality, this is not telling me that, okay, yeah, we should, you know, continue all the way back to the tops, right? Because that's not necessarily how structure works, how momentum works, or how trends work, right? We haven't created higher highs yet. And that's why I was saying with the 94.15 handle, looking at dollar in its entirety, until you see a clear break of this, you can't tell me that, you know, we're coming to tag these hundreds again, tops, right? Once we see that, then I'll say, okay, yep, no problem. We can ride that back to the tops. This was a false break and we're still riding this momentum, right? But until we see a clear break above that, we're treating this whole movement as relief. And regardless of what it looks like on the daily time frame, you want to be quite careful because you never know when all of a sudden the drop's going to happen once again. Now, as of right now, you know, there's no clear signs of when the drop's going to happen. But what I'm saying is you just want to always keep that in mind when you're looking at structure in reference to your environment and how you're going about it. And so as of right now, looking at dollar from the monthly time frame, guys, until we crack that 94.15 handle, we're still treating this as short term, right? Now, if we do in fact crack that 94.15 handle with a strong enough impulse, then we could definitely say, like I said, that we should continue back to the 100 handle. This would have been warranted as a false break, and we're still riding this momentum back to the upside, right? Now, a lot of people are stating that because we do have this previous, you know, high that becomes, you know, a higher low or newfound support, past resistance, right? They are stating that that is not triggering this continued momentum. I'm not still buying it, like I said, until I see cracks above this. If we crack above the 94.15 handle, I'll be on the side of all the buyers, right? But until then, I'm going to be skeptic about moving to the upside. And so looking at it from a weekly time frame right now, we are coming into some serious, what I like to call rejection zones area or fire zones area, simply for the fact that we are expecting that dollar to start consolidating. near this area. And if it doesn't, right, then what we will see, it most likely is a continued impulse. But if we start to see this consolidation, we could expect one more pullback, right? And this will be interesting to see. And I want to see what that ends up doing, because if we make a strong enough impulse that to the downside, I could say that we should continue down. But structure starts to consolidate and creates one of these, right, then we could say that, we could expect one more rally. So we're in an interesting scenario right now. Looking at the weekly time frame, I expect dollar to start consolidating, expect the pullback, and then it's potentially, if it does one of these guys, we'll most likely get the long back to the upside, right, creating that inverted head and shoulders, that relief, flag pattern, etc. And you could expect one more up. But this is going to be the critical areas, how dollar acts within here, right? This is going to be very important, because if we don't crack this, you want to see how it behaves within here, right? Dollar right now, unless it gets a catalyst, will most likely consolidate to the upside. Hence, a lot of pairs will consolidate. But looking at this, right, dollar is set to continue to the upside. We'll probably tag that 94.15, but like I said, I would be treating this all as short term. And so looking at dollar as of right now on the daily, we can see that we did make a strong impulse followed by short-term relief and consolidation, right, due to profit taking. So where are we expecting dollar to go as of right now? Like I said, we should expect the 94.15 handle to be cracked, or tested at least, and then we'll see what's going to happen. But you guys are here to see where structure should go short term, right, and where you're looking to take the trades in the next 24 to 48 hours. And so let's look at that as of right now. Let's break it down very simplistically. We have an impulse, we have a pullback, right? And now this is quite interesting. If we do crack above, right, we should continue upside, and that'll be your short-term buy. Failure to do that, guys, right, then what we could expect dollar to do is potentially start to consolidate, or if it makes a strong enough push back, that's a potential sell setup, and you could run that back to the downside, right? Just remember, guys, that this is going to be range bound. There is no long-term direction until we either break the tops or the bottoms, right? And so there really is a two-way bias on this right now. And then either once that breaks out or these tops break out, that's about it in reference to the direction, right? Because this will be short-term up, this will be short-term down. And until we break, in reality, this, like I said, or this, you're not going to see any long-term areas that we should go to, right? And so looking at dollar right now, guys, you do have a strong shot as of right now to continue up. You just want to take into consideration that dollar hasn't really made any type of real pullback from all of this. And so looking at dollar as of right now, guys, this is creating a somewhat of a flag. I mean, some could say that's actually an impulse with a smaller term flag and we should continue down. But if dollar starts to crack above, that could be one more long up. Just be careful, guys, that we do have a strong area there to the left that has rejected and shown false breaks. So it may do the same above here if we don't make a strong enough crack. But if that does happen, you could give yourself the chance to run it to the upside. And if structure doesn't do that, you want to be wary of what this ascending trend is going to do, right? Because if we do start to make a strong enough impulse down, followed by some type of continuation pattern, you could expect one more drop to the downside, making that your take profit. Like I said, guys, these trades are going to be very short term, right? Until we have clear definitive directions of which way structure should be moving. So in the short term, it's very tough to say which way dollar is going to move, but in the long term, we're going to need a catalyst. So both are really indecisive as of right now. You want to be careful of how extended this is, because like I said, guys, this could just continue to go up. That's very possible, but at the same time, this could just continue to come crashing down if that fails to break the tops, right? And so looking at it and looking at EU across the board, it's inverse. And so right now we can see that structure is at a critical area on the 4-hour time frame, definitely on the daily as well, but we're going to take it to the monthly. And same thing, guys, like I was saying about the dollar, this trend doesn't necessarily tell me that this bearish momentum should continue to the downside, right? Because you can actually see EU is actually structured for appreciation, right? And you start here and we have a low, we have a high, right? We have a higher low. And now if this though continues to move up, we're just expecting this to break out and create a higher high, and that starts creating this whole appreciation of EU, and this is just, right, relief. And so, like I said, guys, this trend right here is not telling me that we should continue to the downside, not till we falsely break out. So with that being said, I'm going to be very wary and careful of what structure does within this area, right? If we start to falsely break, then I could start saying, yeah, we could continue to the downside and start pushing really hard. But as of right now, the way I look at it, guys, is that this is really the most critical area for euro to US dollar, which is that like 115, 116 handle, which was the 3-year high when we were sitting back in 2015 in February. And so that's very, very, very critical for EU, because that would basically mean that this whole momentum was warranted as relief after this drop near here, and we could see another drop down there, right? And so, like I said, we're in very critical areas, very whipsaw-y areas, and you want to be very careful and meticulous on your approach when looking at structure. And so pulling it to the weekly time frame, guys, we can see that EU as of right now is definitely shown to continue to the downside. Will most likely come and tag this area as of right now, regardless if I think the short-term momentum doesn't seem like it's going to stop. But we're going to wait on confirmation to see continuation to the downside. Pulling it to the daily right now, we're finally creating a base here, or somewhat of a range of consolidation. So this could just occur for some time, but I don't think that's going to happen, simply for the fact that we do have Draghi talking tomorrow. And so since Draghi is coming to talk, potential catalyst to occur, giving us a direction, right? And so we'll see if the markets get shaken up tomorrow. If they don't, then so be it. But looking at EU as of right now, not much more to go on the longer time frames, guys. You really just have this last short-term trade near here, and you have to really warrant on a trade like that. Is that worth the risk to reward ratio, right? Is it really worth trying to take that and running it back to these floors, which you can see here, right? You know, for me, I don't think so, and that's how I would look at it. I would really be looking for, like I said, if this breaks, guys, my reversal call was called 3 weeks ago, and we are golden. But until that happens, right, guys, we want to be very careful looking at it on the smaller time frames. We can see, and let's break it down, EU was in a very impulsive downtrend, and then from there we saw one pullback or one type of profit taking or relief, liquidation, and then we saw continuation of that momentum. But now we're in a critical area, guys, once again, right? Because you look at it, and now we are range bound. I say critical because most people are not patient enough to wait to either wait for that, right, or wait for a clear movement. I wouldn't trade that, but you know, I say critical because people are emotional, right? And so if they're emotional, that means that they're going to want to trade within a range of consolidation, and that's why I say it's critical, because this is where most people end up losing their money, is in situations like this, right? And so, you know, that's why if you guys are patient, then it's not critical. It's simple. You just wait for higher highs or lower lows to break. It's just either one or it's two, right? But the thing is, most people can't wait for that because people feel like that they have to become a millionaire the next day. And unfortunately, that's just not the case unless you are an unbelievable trader from day one. And so that's why I say, guys, be very careful in your approach, right? So, you know, we look at the scenarios and we say, okay, which way can structure move? And I said clear trades are above or below, and that's what you want to do. But we're stating once again that this short-term trade is going to be warranted as higher risk and potentially a more of an aggressive approach, just because of the nature of the structure and how extended everything is, right? But, you know, if this starts to break out here, you guys do have a chance to initiate that long, and that could be the potential initiation of breakout and start that big buy to the upside. That is very possible. Is it gonna happen? Tough to say, but that is a shot, right? You get this, guys. You get that, entries near there, stops are below the lows, and you give it a shot to the top, stops are at break even, and see what happens, right? But if you guys do not get that, like I said, I would be very careful. You guys can take this sell, and let's check it out on the 1 hour right here. So, you know, this is looking at it. You got this low here. You're going to want to see somewhat of a break and retest, right? But once again, you want to move your stops as quickly as you possibly can, as there's really not that much room to the downside compared to the upside, just looking at structure and its entire nature or where it is in reference to its environment, right? And so if this starts to consolidate, right, then from there that we're expected to break out, create some type of continuation pattern, and start running it back to the upside. So be careful with this. This is potentially more probable to happen, right? We can see here that EU is forming a reversal pattern rather than a continuation pattern. Creates an impulse, right? And when what it really is an impulse followed by continuation for another drop, right? We're not seeing that here. And so at some point we are expected to do that, right? Now, that doesn't mean it has to happen here. Structure could just keep pushing to the downside, but at some point we are expecting to do that. I mean, it could go all the way to the trend, right? But at some point, we are expecting it to do that. And you look at it in its nature, and it's not continuation pattern, but it is showing for a reversal, right? And so be careful with EU. right? You're either waiting for lower lows to be broken to see continuations down, small flag, or you guys are waiting for these highs to get broken, and that could potentially be the initiation back to the upside. Stops got to be broken at break even, because remember, that's short term until structure tells you that we are definitely shifting momentum. Pulling it to USD CAD, guys, a trade that we unfortunately got stopped out on, but our bias does not change, right? And so, like I said, guys, on the YouTube video that I posted, as well as the webinar last week, when we called the trade, structure moved about 40, I think like about 40 pips in profit. And I'm going to run through it. And then, unfortunately, news came out. News wasn't too good, caused the pair to pull back, consolidate, but we didn't get stopped out on that. We got stopped out earlier this morning. And like I said, guys, we said that structure, we were expecting a pullback at some point. We didn't know when. And so we were just trying to ride the momentum. Like we said, we didn't really care, because if we look at just our performance on the week, we kicked ass on, GU, EU, and UJ. I didn't take UJ, but I took EU and GU. And so UC was half position on that, just to make sure I secure the profits that I made for the week. And so wasn't upset about it. I still think there's further continuation down, and let's get right into it. So one of the things, guys, that we were stating was that is USD CAD ready for its continuation to the downside, right? And we were stating that, okay, here we are. We're rejecting this 130 handle. We just showed false breaks once again on the daily time frame. It is time to continue to the downside. The bears are saying, let's ride, right? But are we due, immediately? Not necessarily, but we believe that we're now due for this continuation down. And so this is how we're looking at it, right? We look at USD CAD, and like I said, we have an impulse, we have a pullback. This is the nature of the pair, right? You have another impulse and you have another pullback. And so within this, we will get one more drop here. But the question is this drop going to be the drop that drops all the way down and breaks this low, right? Or are we going to get one more up and then a drop again, right? We know the drop's going to happen. The question is, when's the drop going to happen, right? That's the big question. And so, as we look at it right now, taking a look at it just from how the weekly closed last week, we can see that we had a beautiful rejection of that 128.50 to that 129.16 handle. Pulling it to the daily, I'm going to review why I took the trade, guys, in the end of the day, was this. We had this breakout of the tops near here, but then we received this false break showing signs of the rejection once again of that 129.16 handle. And we can see to the left here false breaks, which gives us indication that we should see false breaks, right? Art of technical analysis states past predicts future. Makes sense. That's why it happens, right? And so you look at it in its entirety, you can see how much rejection occurs within, that 128.50 to 129 handle. So it makes sense why it rejected. But now people are saying, well, why'd that happen? And I argue to them and I say, okay, well, let's look at the structure now. We got a high and we got a low. Then let's count this as the lower high, excluding this as the false break. And let's count this as a potential higher low. So now we start to create a trend, right? And so, the one thing that we're looking at as of right now is that even though it's creating a trend, let's look at it from a smaller perspective. We make an impulse, we make a pullback, we should still continue to drop. That's expected. As long as we fail to break back above that 129 handle, we're good to go. This was all liquidation from this. Someone made money there, guys. They liquidated, right? And so pulling it to the 4-hour time frame, am I mad that we got stopped out? No. Because our performance on the week was awesome. So I look at it, and a lot of people even told me this. They were like, Albert, they were like, you even said it yourself on YouTube. They were like, you even said that structure made an impulse, and you knew that it was forming, not a continuation pattern, but a reversal pattern. And you said that we could potentially get this. And they were very confused on why I still held, regardless of what the formation was and what the environment was. And that was simply, guys, just due to the fact that if you look and you understand the nature of CAD, right? Canadian dollar, when it moves, it just goes regardless of how the pattern look. That's not a continuation pattern, right? And it just goes, right? So CAD is a pretty impulsive pair, so it'll just push. And so that's why I was willing to give it a chance that, we falsely broke, right? We broke out of that, and we even broke out of the consolidation range, right? We called the signal right within here, and we got this initial push to the downside, which was about 40 pips, right? Then the news came out, unfortunately, right? To the people that says that that text can't factor in the fundamentals. There you go. They priced them in, right? And so you look at it as of right now, right? What we should have done and what I should have done, I just didn't, and I wasn't smart about it. Look, guys, in the end of the day, I make mistakes too, right? So we get this trade, and we were up for 40 pips. And then, you guys had the opportunity to either decide to close at break even or do whatever, right? But one thing is the news comes out, right? But we never created higher highs here. So we're still trending to the downside. We get one more push Sunday night, and we were once again in profit. I should have just sent an alert out and just said, let's close the trade and then let's wait for more confirmation, right? And that's what we should have done. So that should have been closed for a small break-even trade. But like I said, I was running half position on it anyway. So still, in the end of the day, came out on top. But now looking at current structure and what's going on as of right now, I still think that the CAD is a relief play as of right now. It's just a bit more of an aggressive approach. And so if I can kind of see what CAD's going to do right now, I would say that we got a couple of things that are going. We did receive this impulse with the false breaks and the break of the consolidation, but we're back in, right? And people are saying, okay, is it false? But we look at CAD and we want to say, okay, as long as structure is not pressing above this 129.16 handle, you're still expected for downside, and that's a given. And so and this is a bit more complex, guys. This might be something that, if you're a new trader, you might not want to trade within, because you're trading within an impulse on another impulse, right? Within another impulse there, right? And so if you're not so familiar with impulse trading or how structure works in that nature, then be quite careful. But looking at CAD as of right now, there's really two ways that go about it, right? In the short term, this is the impulse, this will be relief. And as long as we're not breaking back above this, it could consolidate all the way down and still rally back to the upside. That's very possible, right? At the same time, guys, this could simply just hold the base, start breaking out, and start rallying and attempting this again. Remember, if you take this, it's got to be short-term, and it's got to be warranted as a higher risk exposed trade, because look to the left, guys, right? Look left. Look at all the mess that occurs within there, right? And so if that trade doesn't occur, right, then you guys want to really see in an instance here, how aggressive are these sellers going to be? That might be a short-term sell to start initiating to the downside. You would move stops to break even once you got there, and you'd be giving it a shot to target back to the lows and potentially even further. This might be, if that fails to break out to the upside, the potential initiation of the sell to the downside. But remember, guys, would be warranted as counter trend, because you are going against the entirety of structure. But looking at it from a 4-hour time frame perspective, guys, we'll definitely get more of a clear perspective. And like I said, guys, as long as we're failing to break that 129.16 handle, you're set for downside. This was the impulse. We are just in relief right now. The moment that breaks, that's your trade. Stops at break even once you get to the lows, right? Only bullish momentum, I would say, is if you got another strong impulse, it create another continuation, and you rally that all the way back up. That's the only way I would take the buy again, right? This is creating a small term flag, which I wouldn't be surprised if it comes here, then potentially starts dropping. That's a possibility. Either it does that, or it's going to leg out one more and get to the tops there. But as of right now, guys, be very careful in CAD. CAD is not something you want to be messing around with. UJ, guys, breaking out to the upside, right? As I was saying, though, we are treating it as correction, right? You guys can see that we had about 5 months of selling pressure. We had only 2 months of buying pressure right now. Pulling it to the weekly time frame, guys, still treating this as correction, right? Because we are expecting at some point to expect that drop back to the downside. That is something that we are looking for. But like I said, we have a little bit more movement to go to the upside, around 1140 to 111 hand, 111 to 111.40 max to the upside. But I still think that if this falsely breaks tomorrow, you want to start looking for that sell all the way to the downside. But if these highs do in fact hold, you guys want to start buying the continuation back to the upside. This is short term. It is warranted as a higher risk exposed trade. 4 hour, sorry guys. Right now we just broke out, right? And so shout out to you guys who didn't trade in this mess. If you traded in that mess, right, you were looking for trades, not rather than waiting for trades, right? What I said, when we were here last week, right? What I say, clearest and safest areas, above or below, right? Because you only have here, and this is tough to say, is it going to drop or is it going to continue, right? And so looking at UJ as of right now, you're in a very, very, very critical spot. Pulling it to the 1 hour time frame, guys, you can see that structure is not forming a continuation pattern, but a reversal pattern. That's the impulse. Once this breaks, you could sell that back to the downside. That is a potential sell setup for you as of right there. Now, if we make another strong impulse above the monthly resistance, look for a continuation and take that. It needs to be 1, 2, and you could take the 3, right? If that doesn't happen, you don't want to touch that. Right? Look left, look left, right? Oops, dealing with a monthly here. You guys can see how much area we have to deal with, or how much potential orders we're going to have to deal with when you're tagging that, 110.48 handle. You want to be careful with that. So you want to see clear cracks above the 110.48 handle. Now, looking at it as of right now, if this does break out, you can start initiating the sell, try running it back to the downside. Then, from there, that could be short-term relief. And if that breaks out, run that back up once again. That's another trade for you there. Now, look, if this base holds, right, this might consolidate, break out. You could try to run that, stops at break even, and give it a shot. But the clearest trades are above here. The sell side is a potential sell setup. Just remember, you will be counter trend because you are going against momentum. But that would have a pretty good risk to reward ratio. I don't think taking this buy to the upside is worth it because I don't think the R&R is worth it, but that is up to you in the end of the day. Looking at it, where we go next? Guys? GBP USD. Let's see here, guys. Who thinks, real quick, guys, before I go down on this pair, who thinks we're going to continue to the upside? Who thinks we're going to continue to the downside? Who thinks? Put it in the chat. Upside or downside in GBP USD? What do you guys think? Up. Who thinks? What else? Upside. Uh-oh. That's right, guys. We're going up. Beautiful. So let's break it down. So is pound set to continue to the downside or to the upside, long-term versus short-term? Let's get into it, guys. So this is the impulse. That's the pullback. This is the impulse, treating this as correction, right? As relief as of right now because of this initial push to the downside. And so pulling and looking at it from a smaller time frame perspective, monthly hasn't given us enough yet, right? Because this is still going to be treated as relief, right? But weekly and smaller time frames, guys, tell us that pound is here, is the bears are here, right? And what I was saying here, a lot of people were like, oh, Albert, weekly ascending trend, it broke out, we're in a sell, right? And the answer to that is short term, no. Long term, yes. Have we created lower lows? Yes. But have we, retested them, or have we continued to test new lows, right? And not necessarily. And so this will continue. And I'll go over that for a couple of reasons. But as of right now, we are expecting pound to push back to the upside. And so looking at it as of right now, guys, we can see that pound is in a very critical area. You can see that it's tops at this previous impulse. But I want to show you guys something real quick. Pound took from, let's say, from this range to the upside, right, about 18 days, which was really cool. I would say a 15, but if you guys want to run it all the way there, about 96 days it took to get to the highest point, right? About 96 days. It took the sellers about 15 days to get all the way back down. The sellers are saying we're here, right? But regardless of what momentum's telling us, this is showing us that at some point we're looking to buy that back up. The question is, how long is that going to go for, right? That's the big question we're trying to ask ourselves here, guys, is how long is that buy going up for? But if we take a look at it from a smaller time frame perspective, let's break it down. Pound, this was its whole behavior. Shout out to you guys who study behavioral analysis in my course, but this was pound's whole behavior. Impulse, relief, right? Makes an impulse, makes a relief. Impulse, relief, right? Impulse made a relief, but then what started to happen? We started to shift the whole nature. It's like, why did that happen, right? Well, let's look at it in one movement. This is one impulse. This is telling us at some point we have to see that. This is profit taking, right? This is hinting to us. It's saying, guys, be aware, right? And so looking at pound, and look, guys, even if you guys studied the behavior even more, shout out to you guys who understand behavioral analysis. Notice this. Impulse, even though it makes relief, notice this. It makes a high. The moment it makes a lower high or the same high, it drops. Watch. Impulse makes a high. The moment it makes the same high or a lower high, what does it do? It drops. Look at this. Makes a high. The moment it makes a second high or a lower high, what does it do? It drops. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the full volume training course students. You guys know what I'm talking about. If you guys spotted those, shout out to you guys, right? But anyways, looking at pound as of right now, expecting continuation. No. Not expecting continuation down. We are eventually expecting pound to reverse right now. If you guys do get these short-term flag setups, remember they are short-term warranted as higher risk exposed, because guys, remember you have to be aware of where you are in its entirety in reference to the environment and things like that. It makes an impulse. We wanted to see this, right? And we didn't see that, right? We're seeing the complete opposite. It's telling us at some point pound's going to start reversing. The question is when. And so a couple ways, guys, that you can look at this. If structure pulls back and breaks out again, it's short term, right? You want to be careful when these lows. If these lows do in fact break, you got a clean shot to the downside. So if you guys want clear sells, it's got to be below all of these wicks, everything below that, expect a continuation pattern and run that back down, right? But I don't think that's going to happen, guys. And really for the buyers, you guys want to see a strong enough impulse followed by a pullback, and you guys can rally that back up. Remember, guys, we are saying how long is this going to last for, because we're going to say right now that the sellers are in power, right? And so that's really your only buying move that you have. If you guys don't get that, you guys are just going to be range bound, and that's not something that you guys want to be interested in trading. Looking at AUD USD right now, guys, once again, I don't think that we're in a complete sell, not until we indefinitely close below that 75 handle. If we do, then I could say, yep, expecting downside. But as of right now, structure's consolidating. Pulling it back actually one more time, guys, to the monthly time frame. We did break out of this ascending trend here. And you can see AUD is set for depreciation, right? And so we were really thinking that we were going to expect one more push up, but we're not surprised that this is going to continue down if it does. But like I said, I'm not targeting the lows until we close at the end of the month where we are. Pulling it to the weekly time frame, guys, a very critical area. You can see that the last 2 weeks are trying to close above this area, above the 75 handle. And so they've been trying really, really hard. And so if sellers start to get exhausted and this starts to reverse, guys, buy that back up. Buy that. Right, but we are not getting confirmation or signs yet that that's going to happen. But what I'm saying is that if you start to know, if you see one bullish candle, right, that engulfs that, that is your continuation pattern back to the upside, right? But as of right now, you could be targeting downside in AUD, but I believe that we are consolidated on the smaller time frames, and that we are. Let's break it down, guys. Make an impulse, and notice this: structure hasn't made a continuation pattern for about 3 months now, right? We're actually just in a big reversal pattern, as I like to call it. And so within that, right, you can see another impulse, and we are in consolidation. But if you look at the nature of it, right, we are same thing reversing. We are expecting structure to at least pull back to the 77, handle 77.5. That is a possibility. Looking at it from a smaller time frame perspective, guys, we can see that even though AUD did break out of this ascending trend, I wasn't taking it because I was expecting price to start pulling back from there. That's not a good R&R for me. I wasn't really expecting such a big push, so did not want to take that. I'm more keen to the upside play. And so for me, the upside play would kind of be something like this. Let's see if we can get the trend going there. Yeah, that's fine. And so once this breaks out, guys, to the upside, right, creates higher highs, I will initiate that. Stops at break even, and we're going to give it a shot. And that potentially could complete this inverted head and shoulders pattern as well, which we could potentially then get that rally back up. Now, if that doesn't happen, guys, you do have one low and you have a higher low, so this has got to break out, right? And then you could attempt to drag these lows, but really the safest trade is below that and targeting it to the downside near there. Last but not least, guys, NZD USD has been a pair that just doesn't care, right? That rhymes. Did not think that would. But NZD USD, guys, set to continue to the downside. You look at the nature of it. We make an impulse, making a pullback, falsely breaking the 72, 73 handle. And so AUD USD is looking to come target. It is actually at these lows right now. So we're dicey. If you're taking any NZD plays, be very careful. It is going to enter some consolidation, most likely, unless you get a catalyst to drop it, right? It is a beautiful pullback, though, after the impulse that we made near here. So if, guys, you see clear closes below that, you could expect continuations to the low. So definitely be wary of these areas. Pulling it to the daily time frame, guys. I'm sure you guys know my thoughts on this. I'm expecting this to, reverse at some point. The question is, when does it start to slow down and then start to rally, right? Kind of what I'm expecting. So if it starts to do that at some point, it'll create something like that. And so I'm expecting something like that if it starts to consolidate and slow down. If it doesn't, I'm expecting continuation down. But I got to see the breaks of these lows near here to say that we are definitely going to do that. But pulling it to the 4-hour time frame, guys, and seeing how we can look at this from a smaller time frame perspective. If you do get any short-term trades back to the upside, you can take them if they break out, right? Just know that they are going to be warranted as short term, simply because of the nature of the structure and the extendedness. But if structure does in fact start to make a strong enough impulse to the upside, followed by a continuation pattern, you could look to run it back up to the 72 handle. But as of right now, be very, very careful, because personally what I think is going to happen is you're going to see an impulse, you're going to see a pullback to tag this low near here, and then you're going to see one more rally back up. I think that's going to happen. But let's see what's going to go down. And so with that, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the pairs one last time and just give quick overviews on where I see them moving in the next 24 to 48 hours. And then from there, I will get to your questions and answers. So I'm just going to take a sip of water real quick. And so here we go. Euro to US dollar. As of right now, guys, we are seeing structure to start creating some type of base here in which we can see some support being found on the 118 handle. And with that, guys, if structure does start to consolidate, right, we could expect some type of pullback or relief, at least from this initial impulse to the downside. Taking it to the 4-hour time frame, guys, as of right now. Oops, that is the 4-hour time frame. Taking it to the 4-hour time frame right now, guys, we can see that Euro US dollar did break out of this continuation pattern after this initial impulse was made, but is failing to break this 118.22 handle. And so with that being said, guys, we're going to be sitting in a range bound as of right now. And so if structure does create lower lows, that is a potential sell opportunity, but just know that that is going to be warranted as higher risk, right? Or and just more of an aggressive approach, simply because of the entire nature of the structure and where we are, as it is quite of an extended play, right? But guys, if structure does in fact start to break out and start creating short-term higher highs, you can potentially take one short-term buy to the upside. Just remember that you are range bound, so any of these trades are going to be short-term until you see a clear impulse above and definitely creating higher highs, followed by a continuation pattern to rally it back up. Or guys, you definitely see another impulse to the downside, followed by a continuation pattern, and then from there you could sell that back down. Failure to do so, guys, we will just sit in a range for now until a catalyst is given. And so with that, you want to be quite careful in scenarios like this. USD CAD, looking at it from the daily time frame, still expecting continuation to the downside as long as we're holding that 129 to 129.50 handle. And as of right now, guys, we can see that structure did make an impulse, falsely breaking that 129 handle. And then from there, we are in a short-term relief due to liquidation and profit taking. Taking a look, guys, at the 4-hour time frame right now, we can see here that structure is creating a nice flag for us. But one thing to take into consideration is that there is an impulse beside an impulse, right? We can see that we have this initial impulse that warranted the false breaks above, right? Followed by we did get some type of relief or profit taking, as we like to call it. But at the same time, there is this short-term bullish momentum followed by this short-term relief. And so it's going to be interesting on which way this ends up playing out. If structure does start to continue to the upside, start creating higher highs and forming continuation patterns, we could expect structure to start testing the 129.16 handle. Just remember that this will be warranted as short-term and higher risk, simply for the fact that you can see that structure has had difficulty breaking above that area, as well as the entirety of the structure is still set for continuation to the downside. Now, guys, if that bullish momentum doesn't happen, and let's say structure fails to create higher highs and starts being capped near here, you want to see a strong enough impulse to the downside, followed by some type of pullback, and that is your trade to the downside. Once you get to the low, stops or break even, and your goal is to run that all the way back down to the 126.15 handle. Failure to do so, guys, may just warrant a consolidation within this area, and you really don't want to be sitting within there, right? You want to see clear breaks below or above. Pulling it right now, guys, into USD JPY. If we take a look, like we said before, we are treating this entire bullish momentum as short term and as a corrective structure, simply for the fact that this was the impulse to the downside, and we are treating this as relief or liquidation, and we can see the entirety of the momentum is still set to continue down. With that being said, we were stating that the momentum to the upside should be more is short term, and so any bullish plays will be looked at from a shorter term perspective. Looking at it as of right now, we can see that US dollar Japanese yen did in fact break above the consolidation box, creating higher highs. And now what we would like to see is a short-term pullback to create a flag pattern. And if in fact we do start to continue to break to the upside, followed by a pullback to create a retest, we could expect one more pushback to the upside. So remember, stops are at break even once you get to that 110.48 handle. That 110.48 handle is a very critical area, guys, in which, to be completely honest, the safest trades are above that 110.48 handle. If not, guys, then from there, you're going to want to see what structure ends up doing within there here, right? If we start to falsely break back down, you want to be looking for potential sell opportunities or potential sell areas. If you can get entry within here, you could potentially look to run that all the way back down to the floors of the consolidation, and then from there see if you can get that continuation push all the way back down to the 104 handle and potentially even further. One thing, guys, is that once structure breaks back inside this consolidation, just know that once it starts to create its base again, structure will consolidate for some time until it gets some type of catalyst to continue within its direction. So with that, guys, you guys are either looking for a pullback, continuation back up, but remember, this might start to consolidate, or you guys want to see structure breaking back down, looking for entries within here, stops are at break even and giving it a shot. Just real quick, guys, if you look at it from the 1 hour time frame right now, you can see that US dollar Japanese yen is showing a reversal pattern rather than a continuation pattern from this initial impulse, in which if we do in fact break that, that is your short-term sell to that ascending trend. Stops are at the tops and you can give it a shot. Like I said, the safest bullish plays are above that 110.48 handle. Looking at GBP USD from the daily time frame, we can see that structure is showing that we should expect a reversal at some point, as we did see that initial impulse made to the downside, followed by a reversal pattern or a pull, followed by a reversal pattern, but that's due to liquidation and profit taking. And what it's indicating or hinting to us, guys, that at some point we are going to expect this pullback, right? And the question is when, though. And so, like we said, we don't know how long this is going to last, but we know that it's going to come at some point. And so we can see that structure is at a very critical area, as we can see that it's testing the highs of the previous push to the upside. And so with that being said, guys, looking at it from the 4 hour time frame, we can see that structure is in fact in a reversal environment as of right now, as we can see that that impulse made was not forming continuation, but rather showing that eventually we're going to see a reversal back to the upside. And so with that being said, any trades that do pull back to this slow, decelerated, descending channel are going to be warranted as short term. And really, guys, you want to see those wicks broken before you see continuation to the downside. And so in reality, the safest sells are below the weekly support and the safest buys are above the daily resistance. Failure to do so is you're going to just be in consolidation. And so with that being said, you want to see an impulse above followed by a continuation pattern, and you guys can take that back up. Just remember, we don't know how long that's going to last. And the same thing from here, guys. If you see an impulse followed by a pullback, you guys can look to run it back to the downside. So that is for pound US dollar. AUD USD, guys, on the daily time frame is showing that we should reverse at some point, giving us indications after this initial impulse was made. We are in somewhat of that same environment, right? And so at some point we are expecting structure to pull back to this ascending trend, descending trend, and potentially even higher to tag those tops once again. But as of right now, guys, structure is showing still further continuations to the downside. And so with that being said, we're going to want to be careful until structure does create higher highs, giving us clear signs that we are set to continue to the upside. And so with that being said, guys, we can see that we are having a tough time holding below that 7473 handle with false break number 1 and potentially false break number 2. And so with that being said, if this does in fact start to break out, we're good. That is a potential short-term buy back to the upside, testing the neckline of this inverted head and shoulders pattern, right? And then from there, if you guys do get that, your goal is to hopefully run that back to the upside, right? Once again, guys, that the safest trades are above the 7571 handle or below. I would say I would honestly say the 740 handle. As you can see, that gets rid of all the wicks. Failure to do so may just warrant consolidation or consolidation or emotional distress, as I like to call it. And so this is really the only viable buy that I see. If not, guys, be very careful from the downside, as they are going to be warranted as short term. New Zealand dollar right now, guys, is showing that eventually we're going to start looking for structure to pull off and start decelerating. Expect a pullback, right? This is a pretty extended movement. So at some point, we're going to expect structure to reverse. But as of right now, especially on the daily time frame, it's not showing any signs of relief or exhaustion. And so structure is looking to continue to the downside, but just take into consideration that its entire nature or its entire structure as of right now is showing that it's going to reverse after this initial impulse was made, right? So if you guys do get these short-term pullbacks, you guys can take them. Just know that they are short-term because you want to take into account the entirety of the structure, right? And where it is. If not, guys, if these trades don't come out where you get these short-term sells, you guys want to definitely see a strong enough impulse to the upside to say that this is now invalid, right? And then from there, you can look for a continuation pattern and start running that back to the upside. Failure to do so, guys, will just warrant potential consolidation, right, within here, if we do start to break back above, and you guys don't want to be trading within that. Remember, guys, the New Zealand dollar and all the other dollar pairs should be treated as short-term and potentially higher risk only because of the extendedness and how their structures are behaving. And so with that, guys, that's the breakdown of the dollar pairs. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And now we're going to get into the questions and answers. Just going to get a sip of water real quick, guys, and then I'm going to answer some questions for about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to have to run off, unfortunately. So thank you again, guys, for listening to me ramble and go on. I really appreciate it. And yeah, guys, so if you guys want to ask any questions or anything like that, by all means, go right ahead and do so. USD Swiss Franc, I still expect downside on Swiss Franc. We are at a very critical area. Like I said, I have no analysis on this, but you can see here on, was it the monthly or weekly I got this off of? It was the monthly, right? Yeah, I'm tagging here. You can see how critical this area is on the monthly time frame. And so pulling it to the daily right now, guys, that's the one. We can see that structure hasn't created lower lows yet. And so once this 23.6 does in fact break, that's your initiation back to the downside, if you guys get that. If not, guys, you guys are just going to be range bound. I do not use MetaTrader 5. Yeah, I mean, US dollar pairs, guys, are in risky areas. I agree with you. As of right now, like I said, they're very extended, so you want to be careful because we're all about to go test monthly levels. And so you could probably take the continuations of them for sure. Part 2 full-time is coming out this week. I'm releasing 2 videos, guys, potentially 3. For my students, I'm releasing 2 types of retests. Part 2 of going full-time. And then I'm debating whether I should put the notion of a trend and what a notion of a trend is on YouTube, or if I should upload that to the course, because a lot of people don't teach that, you know. And so I think that's really important to understand and know. But yeah, guys, shout out to all my students out there. You guys are killing it. So I really appreciate it. But yeah, I think I'll upload it to the course, and then after throw it out. Oh, that's a good idea. You know what I'm going to create as well? I'm going to create a suggestion box. Since it's a full volume training course, I'm going to create like a suggestion box. And we could do maybe 1 video a week that I could pick out of the raffle and pump them out. That'd probably be really good for you guys. Yeah, you definitely do that for sure. Yeah, that'd be really cool. I'll create a suggestion box. Can't put it on YouTube because then my students would be giving away all the secrets. But I will put a bunch of stuff on YouTube. I'm going to put some really good content. I'm going to try to put as much as I can out there without giving too much away about the course. I'm going to go over a bunch of why I take certain trades. I'm trying to think of things to post on YouTube. But yeah, guys, if you guys want to be part of a course that is never ending and constantly updated, you let me know. I can definitely hook you up. I know the guy that's got it. But yeah, guys, shout out to all of you. You guys have been kicking ass. I'm really proud of all you guys. What's the course name? The course is called a full volume training course, and the reason why I call it the full volume training course is because it's it's a full volume library in a sense, right? It never ends, constant updated material. We got live training in there. We got private chat room now. We are upgrading, but never ends. So a full volume training course. Yeah. So you can go if you want to take in, you want to be a part. You can go to my website at www.thataffectstrader.com. And so if you guys have any questions at all, listen, I can see right in here, I have a bunch of my students that are part of the course. I don't even, I won't speak for the course myself. They can speak about it if they want, because in the end of the day, guys, I always came out here on Instagram and said, you guys will know how good I am, through my students, you know what I mean? And so that's really what I set out to do. But Pimping Pips, did you mean my website? I'll type it in on I'll type it in the chat. And thank you, Sonny. I appreciate that. And thank you, Jose. Appreciate that, guys. I really do appreciate the support. Like I said, trying to grow, trying to get more people in the community. So trying to rid as much garbage as we possibly can out there, guys. This is a lot of nonsense, a lot of toxic information. And so trying to change the culture, guys. Trying to change the culture. Try to explain that to a bunch of people, the culture that I'm trying to change and what I'm trying to do. And so shout out to you guys, though. But yeah, Pimping Pips, I would absolutely love to have you on board and hopefully you join. I see Raymond Smith in there. Guys, shout out to Raymond over there. He's been with me for close to a year now, and he's going full time, I believe, by the end of the year, but I believe earlier he wants to go full time. And so shout out to Raymond. Congratulations, big guy. Really proud of you. And so he's from New Jersey, which is where I was born. So definitely I got to congratulate him. Drinks on me, Raymond, of course. So shout out to you, big guy. But yeah, guys, I'm really, really happy with how everything's going. And I think that we're doing a really good job. Why don't I like MT4? I honestly think it's very easy to read off MT4. I just think that from a usability standpoint, I think that it's crap. I think that it's so outdated. Can you guys hear me? Yeah, you guys should be able to hear me. For example, guys, like TradingView is even outdated compared to, but then again, TradingView is free, right? But it's outdated compared to some of the other programming softwares out there, I would say TD Ameritrade's platform is the closest platform that you get to the institutions, getting a Bloomberg or something like that, right? I would say that's the closest thing you get to that. But that's why I'm not really a fan of MT4. Who else we got in here? I'm going to be on for another 5 minutes. That was the girlfriend calling because I got to go get her. I got to go pick her up soon. She's going to beat me up otherwise. But who else do we got on here? Where? Hold on. I just dropped something. There it is. We got Forex Kabar. I see a bunch of guys on here. We got Alex. We got Steven. We got Theo, Sonny, Hayden, Jose. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to all. If you guys are a part of the course and I didn't say your name, apologies. Some of you guys, I think you guys using like usernames or something like that. But shout out to all you guys. Just know to all my students, guys, live training is gonna be. I'm thinking Thursday. So we'll send the email out tonight, guys. We'll schedule the live training. And so last week's live training was awesome, guys. We did excellent, and so that was really awesome. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna be on for another 5 minutes or so, and then I gotta run up. So if you guys want me to go over anything, look at any chart real quick. If you guys want to unmute your mic, ask me anything, by all means, guys, go right ahead. If not, guys, thank you so much for coming out. So just another 5 minutes, guys. Completely up to you guys if you guys have any other questions or not, but really appreciate it. The groups are getting bigger. And so, like I said, guys, by the end of the year, I want to have over 1,000 people in a Zoom group. That'd be cool. That'd be really cool. GBP, JPY. You want to know my outlook on it? Like which way? You got it. Or are you going to trade or? Do I know where I think it's going to go, or are you going to trade or? Yeah, how do I see it? Definitely downside as of right now, but until structure breaks these lows, right, you need to see that followed by that, and you can get that. If this doesn't happen, you're not getting this. This won't happen, right? And so looking at it from the daily time frame, until the 147 breaks, you don't get it. 147.01, right? That's, you know, the entirety of the base, right? And so once you guys definitely, you know, this is a potential flag pattern, but until you see that followed by that, and that creates your trend, right? I wouldn't take it. Now, you can take these, but not until we crack this high. Once you see that followed by that, you have a potential buyback to the upside. But just remember, you do have this now starting to form. Actually, I don't even know if that'd be valid, but definitely you have this trend being formed right here. You have this pullback, right? You have another impulse. So we're expecting price to most likely pull back. Expect another drop, stops at break even here, but you want that. I would just take this. I'd wait for that. I'd either wait for A or B. I'd take that. I would not trade in here. No. I will upload it. Don't you worry. Euro yen, same thing. Weekly time frame, you can see is definitely set for downside, Jose, but not even that. But until we break this, Jose, right? This is the impulse. It's the relief. So you could expect that, or if you see that, you could expect that. So, but shorter time frame, you got a sell setup coming on right now, because you can see the drop creates a base, right? And so you have this impulse within it. So if this keeps accelerating, I mean, to the upside, you're expecting that to reverse. That's your trade, stops at break even. But remember, this is the critical area, right? And so your goal is to get it down to here, but you don't really want to take the trade until you can, I mean, for a long time until you see that followed by that. And then you could take one more to the downside. Once you see one, then you'll get the rest. But this is also an opportunity that you can get within here. So just to break it down one more time, you have an impulse, right? Creates consolidation. Within that, you have another impulse and you have another relief. You're expecting price to potentially pull back to there, drop again, stops at B. Stops at B. I don't know. No, stops at B here. Stops at B here, 1-to-1, right? And then stops move to break even once you get to lows. So yeah, just play it out. Be patient. But with that, guys, I'm gonna have to unfortunately log off. I want to say thank you so much to all of you guys for coming out. I really appreciate it. Spread the word, guys. Like I said, I'm trying to get as many people on here as possible, and so gonna do these from now on every single Tuesday. And so spread the word, guys. Every single Tuesday, bring your friends, bring any single person, right? And so yeah. With that, guys, just want to say thank you so much for coming out. This will be uploaded to YouTube. If you guys if you guys are not subscribed to my YouTube, please go ahead and do so. And yeah, so the one thing, pimping pips, the mentorship is for people who already have a set strategy or a set way and are just looking to focus on certain things, right? Just, need advice in certain areas, and we work closely together. But the full volume training course is really where you learn exactly how we trade and how we go about the markets. That's really the better of the two in my opinion. So that's the difference. Does that make sense, Pimping Pips? Yeah, you know, the mentorship I recommend is for people who take the course after. Usually I usually like people who take the mentorship after the full volume training course. I usually tell people that that, you know, if they take the mentorship, that I'm willing to wait. If they want to take the course, that I'll wait, and things of that nature. So but yeah, you know, I would suggest taking the full volume training course if you're really looking for a strategy that is formulated and works and kicks ass. Then full volume training course is for you. Does that make sense? Let me know. You really? The only reason why I say really is because, like, I kind of feel like I'm fair with it, only because, like, you know, you got everyone else out there like charging you know, 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000, but I'm definitely going to look to potentially create different price points for you guys. Like I said, I'm trying to adhere to everyone in the end of the day. But Pimping Pips, send me a message on Telegram and we can talk a bit more, big guy, if you want, about the course and stuff like that. Up to you, big guy, if you want to just talk on Telegram. So my ID on Telegram, I'll type it in. And yeah, so just, you know, we can discuss about the course and stuff like that, guys. If anyone else wants to contact me, let me know, guys. But Pimping Pips, I look forward to speaking to you, my friend. Besides that, guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the week. I'm unfortunately going to sign off. And thank you so much again for coming out, guys. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next webinar. So thank you so much, guys. Shout out to you guys. I'll see you guys next week.